Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Last Stand Gamers, and welcome. Today, I'm joined by Marek, CEO of King Software House. Today, we're not going to be talking about Space Engineers, though. We're going to be talking about a new game that's been developed at that studio. That is, of course, Medieval Engineers.
Hello, this is Marek, and I am here to speak about Medieval Engineers.
So we've got a number of questions lined up for Marek today. Some things that just look absolutely amazing from the trailer that you've probably seen. The first one is this going to affect Space Engineers development in any way? Is running the games both at the same time going to cause the development of one to struggle?
We believe it will not affect negatively Space Engineers, and we actually prepare for this. At the beginning of the last year, we started to hire more and more developers for our team. So right now at this moment, basically there are two separate teams. One is working on Space Engineers, the other is working on Medieval Engineers. So they are not interfering that much. I mean, they are collaborating, but not like we are not stealing people from Space Engineers team. And on the other side, there are actually things that we think Medieval engineers will bring to Space Engineers, and Space Engineers will benefit from. For example, we created some new types of blocks. We need to add natural landscape, and basically the procedural terrain that we or asteroids that we released for Space Engineers a month ago was mostly being added because of Medieval Engineers, or because we needed it for Medieval Engineers. So we actually think that this kind of co-development is beneficial, and since we are still working on our VRage engine, it allows us very efficient development.
Well, that's very good to hear, because I'm sure Space Engineers fans and the people that are desperately interested in Medieval Engineers are looking forward to it and don't want development of either to suffer due to running two projects at the same time. But it sounds like you're doing the right things to promote both the games and get them running off to a good start, as well as them interacting with each other and helping each other out to obviously build a better game in both sort of circumstances. So you talked a little bit about the terrain and the environment there, and from the trailer itself we saw some luscious green sort of forests and just some beautiful environments in total. Do you want to talk a little bit about them environments themselves and the idea behind them?
I will start with saying that we actually wanted to make a medieval game, or a game that's being played on Earth, so player is surrounded by nature, you know, and green things, and we didn't want to stay in space forever. So I'm really happy that now we have a game where you can be in the nature. And the terrain you can see in the video, and basically the terrain we have in the game right now, it's one big asteroid. Of course it doesn't look like that, but it's actually one big asteroid. It is 4x4 kilometers. It could be procedurally generated, which means that as you walk it will just generate itself forever, but this feature is not properly finished right now, so I'm not saying it's there. The terrain that you see in the video is handcrafted by the designer, and you know, because we needed something that looks pretty in the video, that has nice mountains and hills and stuff like that. And what else to say? Yeah, there are, you know, the basic nature things like grass, trees, and we have some rocks and stuff like that, and all this is, because it's still asteroids, it's voxels, and that means it's volumetric, so people can dig tunnel in any direction, and later in the game, when there will be proper terrain generator, they will be able to find specific ore materials in the places they should be according to some geology rules. In Medieval Engineers we have 1 meter big voxels, and without proper LOD technique, it would be just too much triangles to render, especially for the mountains in the distance. And so this is why we made this hierarchical LOD algorithm, which got actually released in Space Engineers first.
Right, it does sound absolutely beautiful, and from the trailer it looks absolutely beautiful as well. Now, talking about terrain and moving a little bit onto the time period, what are we going to see in elements such as, I mean, at the time, fire, sort of water and the sort of prime elements sort of played?
So Medieval Engineers is set in 5th to 15th century, but we still try to keep our games kind of generic, which means that we don't want to say specific year or specific place on Earth. On the other side, we needed to set some initial look of the game. So basically, it looks like some middle-age European kind of style or setting. And but what we actually hope is that people will be able to mod the game, and they will make different medieval or not even medieval settings. And we are really looking forward to this because that will be super cool. Sorry?
Oh, so I was going to go on a little bit about time period, how you said there's not a specific time and you're letting the player basically build up their own sort of imagination of what time period and what sort of setting they're building around that. The question was more towards what sort of environmental sort of features are you going to see within that sort of setting and that time period? Are you going to be seeing water? Are you going to be seeing fire? What are the dominant sort of things, of elements you could even say of the game?
Okay, so regarding water, this is actually something that we are trying to limit right now. There are two approaches. One is to implement the proper volumetric water, where the water would cascade and flow through tunnels and do all these, like buoyancy things. And the problem is that it will be really hard to implement such an algorithm, but I think we will try to do this at some moment. But to optimize it so it's performance friendly, with so many water particles, being in a simulation, it can be really hard. So for this moment, we are kind of like postponing everything that's related to volumetric water. On the other side, there is a chance that we will implement water like some little component that you can, like a bottle, kind of thing, that you can move around and maybe pour it somewhere or something like that, but it will not generate a lake, or a river or something that flows and something that has a volume. It will be just a property. So, for example, if you will need to craft some material where you need water, you will pour the water to some tool or some place, but it will not generate water surface. So this is what we think about water. And regarding fire, I think it will be cool actually if you will be able to burn the castle, so the fire will skip from one block to another block. I think that will be cool, and I believe it's not a really hard task for us to do.
So moving away from the environment onto the core part of an engineering game, and that is construction. And the real sort of question I want to ask you is, what sort of physics and effects are you going to have applying onto the objects that you build, and how are you going to build them?
So this was one of the changes when comparing to Space Engineers. In Space Engineers, we don't have gravity or like the Earth gravity, or just to phrase it differently, we don't apply gravity on the grid system or on the grid blocks. In Medieval Engineers, we actually need to do this because if I imagine that somebody will build a bridge that just goes kilometers and kilometers, and the bridge doesn't fall, under its own weight.
Buckle under its own weight, yeah.
Yeah, that would be just weird. Or, for example, if somebody will build a tower that goes kilometers up and wouldn't collapse under its own weight, that also just weird.
So structural integrity is what you're talking about here.
So this is why we implemented structural integrity. It it took us some time to experiment with different approaches, and but the version we have right now, I really believe it's good and solid. And so basically what it does is that it calculates the stress that's applied on each individual block in the grid by its surrounding blocks, and this kind of like hierarchically traverses through all directions and so on. it's quite complex algorithm.
So to make it a little bit simpler for everyone who's watching, so like will standard sort of things in construction, so building triangular sort of shapes, increase the structure's strength, or is it based on a different sort of system to increase the strength of a structure or an object, or would it work like in a real world sort of scenario?
Well, I don't want to make any promises here because you know, like we still need to do some sacrifices for performance, which means that I cannot say it's the structural integrity that architects are using, you know, when they are constructing bridges and stuff like that. But on the other side, it should be pretty like realistic. For example, we try to build a bridge that's like you know, these Roman aqueducts that are like that look like three bridges on top of each other or something like that.
Yes, yes.
And when we constructed this bridge, just by some naive approach, it collapsed under its, you know, its own weight. But then we build it like Romans build it, so it's like it's hard to explain this without a picture, but you need to put
with the archways you're talking about.
Yeah, and you need to put them in correct you know, position, and then you need to move it kind of like to a side or something like that, and then it doesn't collapse. But still, I want to repeat this, that it's even here in Keen software, this structural integrity is kind of like early prototype, so many things can change, and I don't want to make any promises. But also what I believe is that we'll keep upgrading the structural integrity, and I believe that, for example, 1 year from now we'll be much smarter about how to do structural integrity, and maybe that version, that future version, will be much more realistic. And so this is one important thing. The second is, and I am quite not sure about if we'll be able to achieve this sooner or not, and it's that if you put an external weight on some structure, for example, if some heavy carriage will be, you know, like moved to a bridge,
driving across it. Okay.
Yeah, if also this force will affect the structural integrity. I mean, our plan was that it will, you know, so you cannot build some weak bridge and then put some heavy tank over it. The structural integrity should also in future work on voxels and on terrain. Right now it doesn't. So basically, if you dig a tunnel, it will not collapse. And this is something we think, of course, that we think it breaks the realism. So later we will add structural integrity to voxels as well.
That'd be amazing. That, I mean, building a mining tunnel and you'd have to actually support your mining tunnel.
Yeah,
just
that's the idea.
Wow, that is a great idea. Anyway, should we break on and have a look at some of the, or have a thought or talk about some of the custom blocks that you guys have added? So a block that I saw in the trailer that I was actually quite excited about is rope blocks. There was people winding up like a winch, and there was this rope block itself. Could you talk a little bit about the rope block for us, or whatever you'd like to call it?
The rope block that you can see in the video is one of the simplest implementation of rope that, for example, it doesn't like
stretch. Is that the word?
Well, I think maybe it does stretch a little bit, but I don't think this version does stretch. Yeah, I think this version doesn't stretch. But what I want to say is, like, if you put it like over some you cannot wrap it around. And but the thing with ropes is that actually this was a big topic of the development here in Keen. And the thing is that there were moments where we were like going to decide not to do ropes at all because they are super performance unfriendly, and they are also very hard to do correctly, so they are stable. It's just like, you know, if you think about pistons and rotors in Space Engineers and just multiply all the issues by 10.
Well, it's got so many factors, hasn't it? It's got flexibility, it's got different angles, it's got a twist. I mean, how would you do that? I mean, what have you done with it?
But then there was this thing that you actually cannot do medieval technology without ropes, because you know, they didn't have thrusters, they didn't have gravity generators and things like that. So and without ropes you can't build trebuchet, you know, you cannot build many things. So we needed to fight with this, and I think the version of rope that we have right now should be stable.
So,
but I think we will need to like keep developing that mechanic or that block a lot in the future and making it stable and all that.
So a quick question about rope. Like, could you name some things that you could use rope to do? For instance, I think you've already named one, like a catapult or a trebuchet. I mean, what other sort of uses could you use it for?
For example, you can see the opening door or the gate, and that's also made basically. Maybe it's not obvious, but you have a like block. That's this thing that's able to like rotate or pull the rope, and this is connected to wooden beams that are the door or the gate, and this is another use for rope. Then something else which is not exactly ropes but pulleys. If you want to, this will be useful especially in survival mode. When you will want to build castles and these things, you will need to figure out how to get the material, the building material, to the construction location. In Space Engineers this is simple because you just put it in your inventory and fly there with jetpack.
So you're saying you're gonna have to haul the material physically. You're gonna have to work out some way of transporting that.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's not just a simple box or an interior you can stick it in. You have to manually haul it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So, but again, we just hope that this will not get to the annoying point of gameplay, like where you want to move one little thing, you need to build some pulleys and things like that. So this is another use of ropes, and then I believe people will just find their own crazy creations.
Yeah, there's hundreds of ways of moving things in the sort of old times, so I'm sure we'll find out, either rolling objects across logs or something crazy. I can't wait to see what people do, like you said. Shall we move on a little bit? Now, there was another sort of talk about blocks, something about, is it a compound of blocks, like putting blocks within a block, or breaking each other sort of block shape?
Yeah, this is another feature that we added to VRage. Basically, when we started developing Medieval Engineers, we realized that it's quite different than Space Engineers, and we need to allow players to put more blocks into one grid cell location. Basically, like more blocks into one block location. Just an example, if you're building a tower and there is a staircase,
spiral staircase.
Yeah, spiral staircase going up the tower. Basically, the stairs and the tower wall need to overlap. Otherwise, you cannot fit both of them at the same location. So this is why we added compound blocks, and I believe that there are some other smaller usages for this compound block. And when we added it, we realized that actually we can do this for Space Engineers and allow better ship designs and especially interior designs for Space Engineers. So at some moment, where we will finish some other things in Space Engineers, I think we will look on compound blocks for Space Engineers as well. Well, basically it should be about building castles and protecting yourself from barbarians that we didn't show in the trailer, in the video, because they are not finished yet, but there should be some environmental hazard, or animals or these barbarians trying to kill you, and you need to build a castle or the wall and things like that, or some traps to get rid of them.
That sounds great. We'll move on to talking about getting rid of them. What sort of weapons are we looking at? Hand tools or things that could be created?
We don't at this moment we don't plan any special weapons. But a side note is that if we will see that players want us to add, swords or things like that, or maybe some little bit advanced medieval fighting techniques or something like that, we'll probably add it. And but other than that, our games, Space and Medieval Engineers, are focusing on the construction and engineering aspect. So we are trying to not do it like a fighting game.
So so what you're trying to do is you're trying not to provide them with the weapon to do it.
Yeah,
you're trying to convince them to build their own.
Exactly.
idea.
But at the same time, we don't want to limit people, and if you'll see that they want to play the game also like a fighting game, then we will look into this. And other than that, there will be tools that you have, like hammer, axe, and all this. And once we start implementing survival mode, you will need to use these tools to cut trees, to dig like
Holes,
tunnels.
yeah, tunnels, mine shafts. Oh, very exciting.
Just modifying this so it does a damage to other players or barbarians should be quite easy. Just go there and we just need to detect the collisions and these hits and things like that. So the most basic fighting model will be that you will just use your tool to like damage or hit somebody.
Right, well, we've asked quite a few questions today, and I'm quite excited to hear about Medieval Engineers, and especially since it's been running and it's going to be helping Space Engineers as well, and it looks absolutely beautiful. So have you got some sort of like timeline or planning, what the plan for the future of Medieval Engineers? Are you going to have a release date or anything special in the future at all?
Yeah, we actually have a release day. We would like to keep it secret for a while, but as with everything we do here, we try to be fast and to iterate really fast. So it's not like a future date. So that's one thing. And in this early access release, we would like to release creative mode and workshop integration, modding API, modding SDK, and a tool where you can convert height map to a terrain. And what will not be there is multiplayer and survival mode. It's possible that we will release some simple version of survival mode where you can just die, and these few basic things, maybe the barbarians, but it won't be the full survival mode where you actually need to harvest resources, craft things, and so on, because in Medieval Engineers, survival will be a lot more work than it was in Space Engineers. But on the other side, the design of survival mode for Medieval looks great, and I will just like step aside with this. So I want to say that, for example, in Medieval survival, you will start with your bare hands, and you need to find a rock, cut a tree with that rock, but it's still primitive tools. And then you use these two things to make a better hammer. Then you find iron ore, put it to fire, melt it, do some still primitive iron axe, but better than stone axe. And then you get like this, and basically you build tools to build a better tools, better tool. We want this kind of, I don't even want to call it crafting, because maybe some people understand word crafting, differently from different games. But the progress,
more of an evolution, I would call it.
It should be like evolution. So basically, you start in Stone Age, and you will advance yourself to Iron Age.
Wow.
That's the idea.
Wow, it's absolutely amazing. It was great to have a chat with you here. Hopefully, I've not took up too much to your time. But thank you for joining us, and you've answered a lot of exciting questions. I'm sure people just can't wait now to get their hands on Medieval Engineers.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'd like to thank you guys for watching, but more importantly, I'd like you guys to comment below with what you would like to build in Medieval Engineers. I'll see you next time.